And now Margaret was here, trembling in the middle of the street, humiliated, her body wrapped in nothing but a wet towel, while strangers whispered from their porches. Daniel froze on the driveway, the sight searing itself into his mind. "Margaret," he said again, softer this time, but she shook her head violently, her tears streaming. "Don't say my name like that," she choked. "Not after this. Not after you let her do this to me." His brows knit. "Her." Margaret's trembling hand lifted toward the mansion. Evelyn leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, her lips curved into a poisonous smirk. "She's mocked me every single day," Margaret sobbed, her voice breaking as she clutched the towel tighter. "She called me too old, too ugly, too useless. She laughed when I begged for the pipes to be fixed. She told me I was nothing. And you," her voice cracked in pieces. "You stood there and said nothing." The neighbors murmured. One woman shook her head. A man whispered, "That's Daniel Cole's maid." The shame pressed heavy in the night air. Daniel's throat closed, his practiced pride faltering. For once, he couldn't hide behind wealth or power. "Margaret," he said, stepping closer, his voice low and raw. "I didn't realize it had gotten this bad." Her eyes burned into him, wet and furious. "Did you ever care? Even once? Or was I just another servant you could ignore?" The words sliced deeper than any boardroom betrayal ever had. Daniel's chest heaved, his jaw trembling as something cracked inside him. "Yes," he said sharply. Then softer, steadier. "Yes, I cared." Margaret flinched, disbelieving. "Don't lie to me now, not when I've lost everything." His voice broke, shattering the mask he'd worn for decades. "I cared, Margaret. I always did. I couldn't show it. Men like me aren't allowed to be soft. I was expected to be cold, untouchable. But that never meant I forgot." His voice thickened, his eyes glistening. "Do you think I forgot who held me when I was sick? Who sat awake when no one else did? Who taught me how to tie my shoes when my own parents couldn't be bothered? That was you. Always you." Her lips trembled, and for a brief second the towel, the humiliation, the gossiping neighbors disappeared. All she saw was the boy she had raised hiding inside the hardened man. "Then why?" she whispered. "Why did you let her do this to me?" Daniel turned, his gaze burning into Evelyn. For the first time that night, her smirk slipped. "Evelyn," he said, his voice thunderous, echoing across the silent street. "Get out." She blinked, stunned. "What?" "You heard me." He stepped closer, the air heavy with his authority. "Get out of my house. You will never speak to her again. You will never set foot here again." Evelyn's face drained of color. She opened her mouth to protest, but Daniel's glare cut her down. With a sharp scoff, she spun on her heel and slammed the door behind her, her power stripped away in an instant. The street went still. Margaret's tears spilled harder now, but they carried something new, relief. Daniel turned back to her, his voice quiet, trembling. "I failed you. I let my silence do the speaking when I should have stood beside you. But not anymore." Margaret shook her head, exhaustion pulling her small frame down. I can't keep doing this, Daniel. I'm old. I've given everything I had." He hesitated, his hand hovering near her shoulder, afraid she might flinch. "Then stop giving," he said softly. "Let me take care of you now. You were never just a maid. You've always been my family." Something inside her cracked open. The sobs came uncontrollably, her hands covering her face. And for the first time in years, Daniel stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. He held her the way he once had as a child, desperate, clinging, thankful. The neighbors looked on, no longer whispering, no longer sneering. The billionaire known for his steel and his distance was crying in the street, his tears falling into the shoulder of the woman who had once been his only comfort. When Daniel finally pulled back, his voice was firm again, but gentler than it had ever been. "Come inside. Not to those broken quarters. To the main house. You'll never live hidden away again. From this day on, you live with dignity, the way you should have all along." Margaret searched his face, seeing through the polished armor to the boy she had once rocked to sleep. Slowly, shakily, she nodded. Her tears no longer carried only despair. They carried release. Daniel guided her back toward the house, his arms steady around her. Behind them, the neighbors lowered their phones, their gossip silenced. Ahead, the mansion no longer looked like a fortress of cold stone. It looked, for the first time, like a place where truth had broken through. And as the heavy doors closed behind them, Margaret knew the boy she had raised had finally come back to her. Daniel froze on the driveway when he saw her. Margaret, stumbling barefoot across the street, clutching nothing but a soaked towel to her chest, her silver hair plastered against her face. His pulse slammed. Cameras clicked from behind twitching curtains. A neighbor's voice carried. "Isn't that the maid from Cole's estate?" Margaret's lips trembled. "Please," she whispered, though no one moved to help her. Behind her, Evelyn leaned against the mansion doorway, arms crossed, a smile curling at the corner of her mouth. "Look at you," Evelyn called, her voice sharp enough to slice through the evening air. "Running around like some lunatic. Maybe you should parade down the block. Give the neighbors something to laugh about." Margaret stopped, chest heaving. Her voice cracked. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "Because you don't belong here," Evelyn said flatly, her heels clicking against the stone steps as she came closer. "You're a relic, an old woman clinging to a place that isn't yours." Margaret shook her head, tears streaming. "I gave everything to this home. I raised him when no one else would." Daniel's throat tightened at the words. He remembered, though he tried not to, her hand on his fevered forehead when his own mother had turned away, her soft humming when the mansion felt like a cavern. For a second, he wasn't the billionaire stepping out of a luxury car. He was a boy again, held together only by the woman now standing before him in humiliation. Evelyn's smirk deepened. "Raised him? Don't kid yourself. You were nothing more than a servant. You wiped floors, not tears." Margaret flinched, her fingers clutching the towel tighter as the whispers grew around them. Neighbors watched from porches, phones lifted to capture every second. She turned her wet face toward Daniel. The question left her lips so softly it almost disappeared in the night air. "Did you ever care?" The world seemed to stop. Daniel's jaw flexed, shame burning through the walls he had built around himself. For years he had let her fade into the background, never defending her, never remembering what she had sacrificed. The silence stretched until Evelyn scoffed. "Of course he didn't. Look at you. Pitiful. Worthless. Invisible." Daniel's voice cut through her laughter, low and steady, carrying enough force to silence the crowd. "Don't speak another word." His gaze never left Margaret's trembling form. "You want to know if I cared?" His breath shook as he stepped closer, his tailored suit brushing against her damp shoulder. "I cared more than I ever let myself admit. And I was a coward for forgetting it." Phones lowered. Neighbors held their breath. Evelyn's smile faltered. Daniel shrugged off his jacket, wrapping it around Margaret's shoulders. "She's the only reason I survived this house," he said, his voice rising, firm now. "She is not just a maid. She's family. And if you can't respect that, then you don't belong here." For the first time that night, it wasn't Margaret who looked small. It was Evelyn, standing in the doorway with her venom caught in her throat, as Daniel walked Margaret past her, his arm protective around the only person who had ever truly loved him.